Welcome to the Fort Lee Podcast. I am your host, Jefferson Wolf. Today we are going to be talking about something fun to do on Fort Lee, the upcoming season at the Lee Theater. I'll be talking to Frank Foster and Lee Farmer about Into the Woods and the upcoming season and what goes on behind the scenes at the Lee Playhouse. Thanks to Chad Menegay for producing this episode, always keeping us sounding great as we reach out to you in the podcatosphere. We'd like to enlist your help in spreading the word about the Fort Lee Podcast. Tell your friends, coworkers, family members, anybody about the Fort Lee Podcast. Please feel free to share our links on your social media. If you like what you hear, also, please subscribe and rate us. And if you have any thoughts, leave them in the comments. You can always reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Army Fort Lee. So sit back in your car or at home or on the couch or on your headphones or your earbuds or however you're listening to us and enjoy the latest episode of the Fort Lee Podcast and our conversation about the fast approaching Lee Theater season here on Fort Lee. Welcome back to the Fort Lee Podcast. I'm joined by Frank Foster, the director of the upcoming play Into the Woods at the Lee Playhouse. He is also a theater company board member. And I'm also joined by Lee Farmer, the manager of the Lee Playhouse. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having us.
So let's just start off with the simple thing everybody wants to know. Tell me about the season opener, Into the Woods. What are people going to be able to come out and see?
Okay, great. Into the Woods is probably Stephen Sondheim's most popular musical.
Okay.
It opened in Broadway in 1987. It featured Bernadette Peters. She was the star, if you will. It won 3 Tony Awards, Best Book, Best Score, and the woman Joanna Gleason, who played the baker's wife, won Best Leading Actress, which was pretty good in a season that was dominated by Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, wow, okay.
That was the same year, so.
Right. So it had some stiff competition.
Absolutely.
So what's the play about in general?
Well, it's very interesting. It is in 2 acts, and in Act 1, James Lapine, who wrote the book and also directed the original Broadway production, they have taken storybook characters that we know, Cinderella, and Jack and the Beanstalk, Rapunzel, princes, giants, and a witch, and they have woven all of these characters into a new story featuring a baker and his wife.
Okay.
And it's very clever. Act 1 takes all these characters that we know in situations that we know and intermingle them.
Right.
And we have a happy ending at the end of Act 1.
Okay.
So it's what we expect.
And then Act 2.
And then Act 2. And then Act 2 is really, I would say, where the story starts.
Okay.
And Act 2 deals with parents and children's relationships, morality, getting your wish and the consequences of such.
Okay.
And all of those things are tested.
Okay.
And it's a very sophisticated look at children's fairy tales. It really is.
This play was written by Stephen Sondheim. Tell me a little bit more about him.
Yeah, Stephen Sondheim. Well, I almost think of him as, right now, the last great master of mid-century musical theater. He started as a lyricist. He did lyrics to Gypsy and West Side Story are 2 of his biggest non-composer musicals. And then he started composing his musicals. He first did Company, which is a big name now. They just had a big revival in New York. And Sweeney Todd, Pacific Overtures, and Into the Woods is probably, I would say, his most popular musical theater piece. James Lapine did the book. I think I mentioned that earlier.
Okay.
And the 2 of them created this, but it's considered a masterwork. And anybody who knows Sondheim, his music is sophisticated, it's complicated. Singers love it because it's challenging.
Is this a particularly hard play to put on for you guys at a small theater company?
No, not really. The interesting thing about this piece is it's been interpreted so many ways, and people take a concept and do it in so many different directions. But the core of it is these fairy tale characters that get their wish and then pay for it in the second act. Dealing with their choices and morality issues and coming together as a community. It was when it first came out, a lot of people who reviewed it thought it was Sondheim's answer to the AIDS crisis, actually.
Oh, wow, okay.
Because the villain in the second act is killing good people, bad people. They don't care. And the community has to come together to fight the villain, and that's the strength of it.
This ran quite a while on Broadway, didn't it?
I knew you'd ask me one question I don't know. 2 or 3 seasons, I believe.
Okay.
I know Bernadette Peters didn't stay in it very long. Felicia Rashad, who was the mother on The Cosby Show at the time, replaced her, and then
continued on.
Yeah, continued on.
And now it's across the country in small theaters.
And on Broadway. It's on Broadway now.
Oh, is it?
It's second revival, so it's been on Broadway 3 times. The first with Bernadette Peters, the second time with Vanessa Williams.
Okay.
And then now with Sarah Bareilles and Brian D'Arcy James.
Okay, well, tell us a little bit about what's the schedule, when can people come out and see it, what's the cost, what are the show times, and all that good stuff.
I'll let Lee talk about that.
Okay.
The play opens on 11 November and runs on weekends through the 27th of November. Evening shows Friday and Saturday are at 8 p.m., Sunday afternoon matinees are at 3 p.m.
And you have something new this time around. You've got a Thursday and a Saturday, right?
Yeah, we're offering a Thursday evening production on the second Thursday of the run.
Okay.
And the second Saturday of the run with a 2 o'clock matinee performance.
So that second week is going to be busy.
It's going to be busy for the actors, yes.
What's the cost to come in?
It's $18 for an adult, $8 for students. I have group rates of 10 or more for $16 each. And for military personnel in the grades of E4 and below, it's only $5.
Who are you encouraging to come to the show? What's your audience for the Lee Theater and Into the Woods?
Well, we get a tremendous turnout from the Tri-Cities, from Colonial Heights, Richmond, as far away as Emporia, Virginia Beach. But I would really encourage those who live on the installations to come see it. We often have actors who live on base,
okay.
Either a spouse or the husband or child. So usually when they're performing, we get all the neighbors to come with us. But we'd encourage the Fort Lee community to attend.
Now, on that note, you said you've had family members that have performed in the plays before that have gone on to other things.
Oh, yes. We've had family members perform who's gone on to professional theater in Chicago. We've had some that wind up as these sound engineers in Atlanta.
Oh, that's really cool.
Did the CMA Awards.
That's cool. So there's a future if somebody wants to come up.
The opportunity is there. Believe it or not, you have scouts in the theater, just like you do in professional sports, who are looking for talent.
How about that? And they come here to the Lee Theater.
They come here. That's correct.
That? Okay. So you talked about people coming from all around the area. What's the procedure for folks that come from off base that want to come on Fort Lee?
They call the Lee Playhouse box office number to make reservations. And at the same time I'm making the reservations, I will vet them to gain access to the installation.
So in other words, when you call to reserve a ticket, you'll get 2 for 1.
Exactly.
Now, if somebody calls, if somebody wants to show up late, they can still call the box office
They
and you'll
call
work
me
it.
and I'll make arrangements.
Because the visitor center's not open on the weekends and
Correct.
evenings, but you can still work something out, so they should give you a call.
I'll make arrangements to get them access.
Okay, and just while we're here, what's the number at the Lee Theater?
804-720-0163. They can get that. They can reach me day or night.
Okay, that sounds good. Now, day or night is a nice segue. What is a night at the theater like? Is this a date night event for people, a family event? Tell me a little bit about what it's going to be like when somebody comes out to the theater.
It's all of the above.
Okay.
Quite a few date nights.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, when we have young soldiers come to the theater on a Sunday afternoon matinee, they actually bring their girlfriend too, you know.
Yeah.
Even though they're privates, they bring their girlfriends with them, and that's pretty neat to see. They come to see a show. I get a good Marine audience.
Yeah.
Very good Marine audience who come, and some Army AIT kids.
Right. Tell me a little bit about the inside of the theater, the comfort level. You have a concession stand, so you're not going to come in and, you know, have a water fountain. What do you have at the concession stand for refreshments? And talk a little bit, too, about when somebody comes in and sits down. You have a kind of a unique arrangement with the seating as well. Yes,
they're reserved seating for one thing. So when they purchase their tickets, I give them the seat they're going to be in, so they know ahead of time when they get to the theater. We have a concession stand, very reasonable concessions. We have soft drinks, popcorn, candy, and whatnot. Like I say, it's very reasonable. We have ushers to escort them to the seat.
Right.
I have some of the most comfortable seating in the Tri-Cities area. I have very wide aisles where you can actually stretch out. You don't feel like you're in a Trailways bus. So it's a very comfortable seating.
Right. That's great. So tell me, what goes into a production from kind of a behind-the-scenes look at it for a production like Into the Woods here at Fort Lee? How do you select the shows?
The board, first of all, let me tell you about the theater company.
Okay.
The theater company, I'm not really sure. It was formed before I got here.
Okay.
I think maybe in the 90s.
1990s, and reorganized in 1995 when the old theater was condemned and we moved into what used to be the Atheist Theater.
Right.
And they closed down, which was our opportunity to set up shop in the theater.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. But the theater company was formed to help support the programs offered at the Lee Playhouse, and by civilians and community members that have been active within the community theater here. And the board supports educational opportunities. We have scholarships that we give to, most of the time, to kids who've grown up in the theater, because we also have a youth program through our Kid Capers.
Right.
So we have young people who have grown up on this stage behind the scenes.
Maybe Kid Capers is another podcast episode when we get there.
Yeah, absolutely. We should do that. But what we do as a board is we look through shows that we think would be good for our community, good to produce, and submit those to Lee, and he makes the final decision. But that's how the season is chosen.
Okay.
And then it's announced.
So tell me a little bit about the process when you go through auditions. Who are the actors?
Okay.
We talked a little bit. We've had some folks from Fort Lee. You have some folks from off post. Where do your actors come from, and what kind of experience do they have when they come to the Lee Theater?
Well, I hope they have a good experience.
Yeah.
Our actors mainly come from the community.
Okay.
We do occasionally have spouses and children that audition for us.
When you say the community, you're talking like Petersburg,
the surrounding community.
How far away are we? All the way to Richmond?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We get a lot of actors from Richmond, and one of the great things is we're able to do in our theater some larger musicals that some community theaters and a lot of the professional theaters can't do. So people are excited about the material.
Right.
That's exactly what happened with Into the Woods. Into the Woods has a cast of around 20.
Okay.
We had over 60 people audition for the show, which is
wow.
pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. So we post auditions, they come to audition, and from that we select our cast and start a rehearsal process that's anywhere between 6 and 10 weeks, depending on the piece, and go into a week of technical rehearsals, and we open on a Friday night.
Tell me a little bit about the set building. How long does that take? It can be very involved depending on the play you have, I assume.
Absolutely. It depends, how complex it is, but usually I'd say we start around 5 weeks, 5 weeks out building, and we rehearse on the stage most of the time, so we're able to use whatever units are there. And we depend a lot on volunteers, as you know.
Right.
to come in and help us do that. But we have a great core of people that are there to build, paint, get it all together.
So after Into the Woods is done, tell me a little bit about what's next coming up for the rest of the season.
We have a great season planned. In February, we open A Raisin in the Sun, which is a classic play. After that, we open in May Mamma Mia, which is ABBA's, the musical group ABBA.
Okay.
Their mega hit.
Okay.
It's a show that they wrote using their top 40 hits from the 70s. So It's pretty fun, and I think a lot of people are really excited about that too. So we have two shows as far as the theater community that people are really excited about this year.
Is there a big difference in putting on a musical versus putting on a play that doesn't have music to it for you guys?
Absolutely.
What is the difference?
Well, my favorite analogy is this. Putting on a play is like putting together a bicycle. You have the book, you have the instructions, you have the pieces, you sit and you put it together. Musical's just like that, except you're putting together a Maserati.
Right.
Truly, because you have all the music, you have dance, you have music, you have all these pieces that have to be put together versus 5 people with words. You know what I'm saying?
Right, absolutely. Yeah, if I start out with a bicycle instructions, I tend to wind up with a pile of parts. But I'm amazed. I went to the last play that you guys did, and it was unbelievable. Just for what it's worth, I thought it was a great experience, and it's amazing how you go from nothing to this great production and pull it all together. We have the Lee Theater here on Fort Lee. It is the oldest brick building on post. Tell me a little bit about the history behind the theater from somebody, namely Lee Farmer, who's been here quite a while.
Well, construction started in 47.
Now, you weren't here then?
No.
Okay.
Just about.
Just to be sure.
Finished in 48 and opened in 1949.
Okay.
It was a movie theater for years and years run by AFES. Mm-hmm. When the old theater, which was located on A Avenue, was condemned in 1994, the theater was just out of business, but lo and behold, AFES decided to close the theater the same year, so we just moved in right behind them.
Perfect timing.
And we started from scratch with putting in the lights that we confiscated from the other building. We already had the seats in there. Mm-hmm. Back in the day when we started, there was no wireless microphones. There was none of that. You hung mics from the ceiling and stairwells, so it was kind of antiquated, but we've progressed over the years.
Yeah.
But the seats are just phenomenal. I mean, it's unbelievable, the seating capacity in that theater. And it's laid out to where no matter where you use, there's not a bad seat.
Yeah.
There's not a bad seat in the house.
Now, the theater was renovated fairly recently after you guys took it over.
2008, they did a major renovation.
Okay.
And we're still reaping the benefits from that.
Well, that's
in fact, we took out 47 seats during the renovation to allow more aisle space for our patrons.
So it's really comfortable in there. I mean, most people who have been on base at one time or another may have gone through there for a briefing or a class or something and not even known that.
For many, that's the first time they knew the Lee Playhouse existed,
right,
when they first had to come in for a military briefing. In fact, another note that is that none of our actors are paid. It's all volunteer.
Oh, that's a good point. Well, they put in a lot of time then.
Average about 250 hours for production.
Wow. Per person or total?
Per person, per production is about 250 hours of volunteer time, and their only pay is the applause at the end of the show.
Well, that's a lot of volunteer hours. Mm-hmm. That's really impressive that people come out for that.
We average anywhere between 32 and 34,000 hours of volunteer labor a year.
Wow, that's great. No, I guess if somebody needs volunteer hours, they can contact you for that too.
Absolutely.
So you also have some technical support facilities for the theater where you build things, and tell me a little bit about those places.
I have a theater support building located right behind the main playhouse where I have a rehearsal hall, a small prop room, and a carpenter shop where we build our sets. On the other end of the base, I have a significant costume storage area where we actually have a set of seamstresses based on our show who, if we can't borrow the costume, they'll build it.
pretty cool.
And it's coming in quite handy because universities, high schools, movie departments, for example, when Lincoln was filmed, they borrowed some of our costumes for the production.
That's really cool.
So it's kind of good in the standpoint that we can also borrow from those other theaters, so it's reciprocal.
Right. So it's a little known thing that Fort Lee has this big theater, and you guys exchange with some of the big boys, really, if you've got movie companies coming in.
And we worked close with also Prince George High School. They do a lot. Theater department does plays. We provide, in many cases, the sets for them, the costumes for them, and it's also beneficial that the music director there, by the way, is also a theater company at Fort Lee, board member. So it makes it real nice.
So that's another
Colonial Heights, all of Governor School, all of them use us.
This is another example of how Fort Lee kind of integrates with the community around us, and it's something maybe people don't think about all the time, but you're very integrated with what's going on in the surrounding area.
I always say that I've said it for years that the Fort Lee Theater, we're kind of the goodwill ambassadors in this community because we're the central focal point. When civilians come in from all posts, if it wasn't for that theater, they would have no reason to come on this installation. And now they come on the installation, they see what the Army's about, and we've actually put about 10 kids from these parents have joined the military because they had a good experience here.
Oh, wow.
So it's a good recruiting tool.
Right, and that's big right now in the news where the Army's
very
struggling to recruit. So, yeah, hopefully we can maybe continue that going forward. So this may be a question either one of both of you can answer. We talked a little bit about building the set, but how do you get the theater ready for the play with at the same time the other organizations on post who use it?
Well, they coordinate, all the units coordinate with me for use of the facility. And as much as possible, I always try to accommodate. Most times I can close the front screen and it has no impact on what's going on behind the screen. And so we have a good relationship with the commands, and they understand we're doing a production and they can work around my schedule.
And with all the time that volunteers put in, Frank, I assume you guys just work around their schedule too when he needs something.
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about one thing that does happen at the Lee Theater program. You guys have movies on Friday nights. Tell me a little bit about that.
We started this back last winter where we do free movies for the AIT students on Friday night beginning at 7 o'clock every Friday that the Playhouse is not in production.
Right. So you either come to a movie or you come to a play.
You can come to either one. And we have good turnouts for the most part.
Right.
And families are also welcome to attend those movies on Friday nights. We're taking a little time off right now because of the production, but right after the first of the year, we will gear up again on the Friday night movies.
So people in the community, keep an eye out for that and come to see a movie on Friday night.
Absolutely. Great movies. Like I say, it's free.
Right. You can't beat that.
Can't beat the cost. Concessions are extremely reasonable.
Right. What happens when the production is over? How long does teardown take, and how long does it take to get things back in order to get the theater running and then get ready for the next one?
We tear that set down and load it up on a truck.
Yeah.
The screen comes down for training the very next Monday morning.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For AIT in processing.
So it's a lot less time to tear it down than to set it back up.
Yeah, I wish it could go up as quick as it comes down.
And the other thing I will say about that is we use the cast and all of our volunteers in our productions to assist with that too.
So it's a group effort, more volunteer hours.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah, and there's a lot of screwdrivers and drills going on Sunday afternoon after that production.
Yeah.
And you got to be careful where you walk.
Yeah.
But they're large sets, so it takes a while to come down safely.
Yeah, safely is very important. So what kind of other events does the theater host? We're talking about some of these things. We talk about the movies. You do a lot of briefings.
We do the movies, briefings. Every installation special observance is done in the theater, from Martin Luther King observance, Black history, women's history, Asian Pacific heritage, the Native American heritage. All of those are done in the theater.
Right.
And we support every one of those, from the conception to the end. I provide technical support to all those.
So it's a busy place between the plays and the movies and the events.
There is somebody in that theater every day.
Well-used facility. For both of you, I guess I'll start with Frank, and then we can go to Lee. Tell me any final thoughts about somebody thinking about coming out to the production. What would you say to somebody who's thinking about coming out but maybe hasn't made up their mind yet?
I would say do it.
Yeah.
No, I think if you've never been and seen what we do as far as producing quality theater, you should treat yourself. Hopefully, one visit, you would be hooked and you'd be in the seat every time the curtain rises. Yeah. Because Fort Lee, I can never remember the numbers, but we're one of 3 left.
One of 3 in the Army left.
In the Army left.
Oh, wow.
So
in CONUS.
In CONUS, right.
Right. So, I mean, how fortunate are the people at Fort Lee to have this opportunity, and I hope that they will come see what we do and enjoy.
And any final thought from you?
I echo what he says, plus the fact that you will not find any better entertainment for the price that you pay for admission. We've got the other theaters at $25, $30, $50 a production. And believe it or not, in many cases, we have the same actors. And they're doing it for us free.
That's really cool. That's really great. Okay, so one more time. The show is?
Into the Woods.
The show times are?
8 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, 3 p.m. on Sunday afternoon.
With a Thursday.
With a Thursday 8 o'clock matinee and a Saturday 2 o'clock matinee.
The second week of production.
Second weekend of production.
Got it. Okay, and the cost?
Cost is $18 for adults, $8 for students, $5 for soldiers E4 and below.
Okay.
And group rates are available for 10 or more.
Opening night is?
11 November.
And last but not least, anybody that has any questions about any of this stuff, times, dates, they can go to the Facebook page. Tell me what the Facebook page is.
Or they can call the box office.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay,
call
let
the
me
box office at 804-720-0163 for all information relating to the performances.
And tell us what the Facebook page is.
The Facebook page is, you can follow the Theater Company at Fort Lee on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
So, and there are postings there that will give you more information.
And we should note there is a story up on the Fort Lee News website about all this if somebody wants to go to one place and maybe get their information there. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us today on the Fort Lee podcast. We appreciate your time, and good luck, and break a leg, I suppose, what I'm supposed to say, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
That is a wrap for this edition of the Fort Lee podcast. Thank you for joining us, and please join us next time.